Hey, everybody. Thank you again for joining us here on the Town Hall for Mission Roll Call. For those that are watching, we appreciate you guys being here. And as always, make sure you share these. We do these monthly. For those that are probably new here, haven't been here before, I'm the host, Ray Whitaker. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the organization. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what's happened in the last 30 days and kind of keep you a little bit informed on the things that we've been doing as an organization. For those that are new here, there is an ability for you to post comments during this if you have questions or things that you want to ask. To do that, come to the website and do that. For YouTube, we just got that kind of recording there. You can watch live on YouTube as well. We don't have the comments on there, but you're more than welcome to do this. For those that are watching after the event, if we spur some sort of a question as we're talking about something, don't be shy to post a comment. That lets us know. I mean, we'll answer that question the next go round whenever we have these. And again, we do these every single month. So we'll see you again probably around mid-May or so for the next portion of this. One thing I want to say is, for us to amplify your voice, we need your voice. So don't forget, for those that are watching, and this is for both veterans and their families, make sure you come join us over at missionrollcall.org. Super simple to come in and do that, sign up, take polls and stuff like that. Today, as always, we got some really great topics that we're going to be talking about. The main focus for today is going to be about the survey, right? We came to you guys, we asked you guys to provide us some details and answer some of the polls, or really the survey that we put out, and you did. We took those polls or the survey, and then we used it. So today, Jim Whaley, CEO of our organization, is going to come in, and we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about that and kind of the next steps of where we're going. So I'd love to introduce Jim and have him come on with us. Jim, good to see you again. How's the last 30 days been for you?
Oh, it's been busy, Greg. Great to see you and great to have our audience with us. A lot going on. And, it's due to this great team. They're just doing a wonderful job listening to veterans, getting their voices and amplifying what they think is important and sharing it with decision makers as well as the media. We've done a lot of interviews on important subjects, and we'll continue to do that. And the word's getting out, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing we want to talk about the survey, right? Because we're only going to touch on a couple things today. I would love to just take all the questions and obviously get them put here. And we're going to do that. Mike and Britt and the rest of the team for Mission Roll Call are going to be putting that together, and we're going to be submitting some blogs and stuff. But what I would love from you is just kind of a quick overview of how important the surveys and the polls are that we put together, so that those that are listening understand that we use those to inform and then, of course, educate government leaders that make lots of decisions that are around veterans.
Yeah. So if you think about it, only 1% of the total American population has served, and very few Americans in the general population have any connection with the military. So you could see on a national level where the voices of veterans could be drowned out by the noise of so many other things that are going on, some of those good things, some of those bad things. So it's very important as a community that we share our voice, and then organizations like us amplify that voice so that it's heard. And when I say heard, there's really two or three constituents that we're trying to reach there. One is the general American population, to let them know about how important veterans are to the fabric of our country, how they contribute to the communities that they live, how they become coaches and firemen and doctors and lawyers in the communities that they live. The second group of people that we're trying to reach is elected officials. There's about 18.5 million veterans in our country. Only half of those are registered with the VA or affiliated with any veteran support organization. So if you think about 18 million veterans, half of which aren't being heard, so roughly 9 million, we want to reach them. We want their voices to be heard. And when you think about those 18 million, you have to assume that many of them have families, they have a spouse, they have dependents, they have mothers and fathers. So that demographic, that number grows even higher. So we're trying to make sure that their voices are heard, because as we all know, a veteran who is maybe struggling, it affects not only that veteran, it affects their kids, affects their spouse, it affects their mom and dad, brothers and sisters. And so it's important that all those voices are heard. So that's a very big group that we're trying to reach through a lot of innovative outreach, through our YouTube channel, through podcasts, through our blogs, through our innovative website, all of those, providing vital information for that group. And then I would say the third group, Ray, is really the media. I do a lot of media interviews, and I would say this if the media was on this call, most of them do not know what the military is all about. They have very little knowledge of what it is to serve in any branch of service. They don't understand the challenges that veterans face when they transition. And they certainly don't understand some of the issues that veterans are facing when it comes to quality health care, access to that health care, getting help where they need it, when they need it, how they need it, all of those issues. So we're trying to triangulate all those important constituents to make sure that the word gets out. And this polling is the oil to that engine. So when we do those polls, we can share that information with elected officials. And you could imagine how interested an elected official gets when we go into their office and say, hey, we just did a poll in your state, and this is what it's telling us. And we've reached thousands of veterans. They pay attention. They want to know what that information is. And it's the same thing with the media. They don't have the ability sometimes to get these polls out and reach a target audience such as ours. So we help them with that. So I know it's a long-winded subject, but I'm passionate about it. And so I would urge everybody to take polls. I berate friends and family to take polls. So yeah. I mean, because I know everybody's busy, and that's and so there's a lot of draw on our time. But these polls are quick, but they're so impactful, and it only takes a minute to do it. And you can share it with your friends and family. And that's it's powerful, and we need and those numbers are going up, but we're impatient by nature as veterans, right? We want things fixed right now. That's the way we are, and so we want those numbers to go up.
Yeah, and I think you say this a lot, which I think is very powerful. That walking in with 10 veterans' voices and trying to communicate is a little bit unfair in some instances, because all 10 of those veterans and family members are different, right? They're not all the same. They all come from different walks of life and different areas. So being able to walk in with thousands or hundreds of thousands of voices now lets us as an organization amplify that voice by triangulating like what veterans really think or what the family thinks a little bit clearer. Then it helps the government leaders understand, right? It takes a little bit of the mystery out of making some of these tough decisions when you kind of have the answers to the test, right?
Yeah. Well, you were more succinct than I was, Raymond. So thank you. I think the other thing that it does, if you think about it, and we get to the point where these polls reach tens of thousands of veterans instantly, and we're able to share that information, you could see that as a powerful tool that the VA would use or Department of Defense could use and say, hey, listen, we want to know what veterans think about this before we do it, right? Before they embark on some huge mistake or something that's going to cause a lot of grief or is not going to fix the problem, where we could do an interview or we could do polling, and that could help them get a pulse check of what veterans really think. Because sometimes the best intentions are sometimes are not what comes out of those actions. So we want to make sure that we can be helpful to the VA, as well as organizations, other VSOs, and as well as veterans organizations, as well as veterans offices in individual states. So all of those organizations we can be helpful to.
Yeah, I mean, their success is the success also of like just veterans in general, right? So I don't think anybody is hoping for anybody not to be successful from a government perspective, because it impacts everybody. So that's such a great way to kind of think about that, Jim. What I'd love to do is get the first poll question, Jim,
Sure.
and just kind of talk through. We got two of these that we had kind of passed out that I think are priorities. So when we did our survey, as you know, last year, and we asked veterans and families to tell us, hey, what do you want us to focus on? We're really two of those areas. One was homelessness, and then the other one was suicide. So one of the survey questions that we actually asked is, do you think the VA is doing enough to reach veterans at risk of homelessness or suicide, particularly those who had no prior contact with the VA? I would love to just kind of get your thoughts on on the responses we got, right? And kind of the end state of where that was.
Yeah, well, first thing I would say is thanks to everybody that took the poll and answered those questions. I think the second takeaway for me is there's a lot of passion around the subject, as it should be. We as veterans don't like to see a fellow veteran in a place such as homelessness. And so we want to be helpful and we want to be proactive. And I think the polling suggests that the vast majority, 70+% of our polling, says they feel the VA is not doing enough. And when you think about that, they're only reaching half of the veterans that are in the country, right? We talked about that earlier. 19 million veterans are only reaching half. So, and then the numbers that you are reaching is very low. Then you realize the enormity of the problem. And you know, on every situation where someone's homeless, it just doesn't happen overnight. There's usually a chain of events that lead to that. And if you can break up that chain, just like an accident, if you can break up the course of things happening, you can avoid the accident. And it's the same thing with homelessness. And we see that, you know, if the transition didn't go well, or you're dealing with some extra burdens that you're carrying, and coupled with an economy that goes up and down, you could see that there, by the grace of God, goeth I, you could easily be put into a situation where you're homeless. And so if you look at this graph right here, which is very telling, I think,
That's right.
you know, do you think the VA is, well, 73% say no. So obviously, I believe, well, obviously, I would say those numbers aren't good, right? If 70% of your constituents or customers feel you're not doing a good job, you're going to have to remedy that. You're going to have to change the way you do things. And I trust Secretary Collins, from our conversations, takes this very seriously. And he's got his staff focused on it, and they're going to work on it. But homelessness has been going on for a long time. It's not going to be an easy fix. There's a lot of differences to why people are homeless. And homeless situation would seem like to be across the nation a holistic problem, but it really isn't. It's different by every state, and it's different in every city. So you have to have kind of a grassroots approach to go over that, but you need support from the national level to fix this issue. But I do feel that the veteran community is not happy with this, but I feel we haven't really harnessed the veteran community to solve it. There's some great organizations that are doing great work here. We've talked to Mighty Hero Homes, based in Atlanta. They're doing wonderful work in Georgia, actually building homes, small homes for veterans, but putting them in a community of other veterans in those, so they're together. And we all know one of the greatest challenges of getting out of the service is you lose your tribe. You lose that group of people that you might have razzed a lot, you joked with a lot of each other, but they were family. And when you're pulled out of that, either your own accord or an injury or what have you, you're left adrift, and bad things can happen. And so you end up homeless, and now you're in a worse condition, and your health is bad, and all these other things. So you can think about these small communities that they call like squadrons or squads they put together. And that would be a place where VA could go and help. And because it would be consolidated, we could bring in other VSOs to help them. So they're doing great work. There's other organizations as well across the country. So it's important for us as a veteran community to put support behind that. And that support is to bring awareness and quite frankly, financial support. If we have 19 million veterans and everybody gave $5, this problem is fixed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're hitting on, I think, and to kind of expand that, you talked about kind of like the continuum. We talk about the funnel, right? So the start of the unfortunate journey of, as we're learning now, not only the veteran themselves, but also their families, because that is an important aspect of this, is to understand that we know that female veterans are becoming much more in the homeless side, along with kids, right? So maybe they have one or two kids. So where they're entering into that, we need to understand that. But then we also need to understand the entire path to the end of it when they find their way out, right? When they figure it out, because part of this is like, it's a team effort. And I think that what we're learning right now, and one of the things you tasked us with from an organization, is to think about this problem, go to the experts, right? So we're talking to educators right now, schools, colleges. We're talking to nonprofits, different states, to get their feed, to put all this together, to then create a page on Mission Roll Call that has the facts as we know them, which includes the VA, right? Like pulling in all of this data, and being able to look at this a little bit easier to truly understand. I think we all knew that if you asked any of us 2 months ago how many homeless veterans there were in California, I mean, let's be real. We know that it's a big number, right? Because we look at that national number. But if you'd ask like that, okay, where is it in California? And then what about this county? What about this location? That's not an easy answer, but that's an important answer, because every state is different, right? And although the government is important, they're a huge part of this, and the VA is, there's also a part of this at the state level, and in some instances, even the city level, which we're learning now, which is great, and it's important to help those that are going to make the true impact, which is getting folks off the street. So I don't know if you had any other comments on that.
Yeah, I do. And a couple of things came to mind. One is, first of all, we don't know if the numbers are really accurate. And I would suspect that the numbers that we know of right now is actually higher than the numbers reported. There's a one-day kind of survey nationally to look at veterans' homelessness. So just by that measurement, we know it's not completely accurate, because you're not capturing everybody. Second is people go in and out of homelessness. So sometimes an organization like the VA will report, well, homelessness is getting better, we've improved. Well, that's because some people coming out of homelessness, but there's some people coming into homelessness, and those numbers haven't, it's not a daily toll or an accurate toll. So I think we know it's bigger than we think. We know it's a complex issue. But I do believe that I've never found a problem that if you don't put some veterans behind it and give them the resources, that they'll figure it out. Through my career, I always saw that happen, and leave it up to their ingenuity and give them a little time and space, and they'll figure it out. And I feel like we need to own this as an organization. And I feel like as a veteran community, we need to take care of veteran homelessness. And that's why we're doing the things that we're doing, trying to find out best practices and educate and inform and empower those that follow us on this subject. Because everybody who's listening to this, everybody we're sharing this with, they're ambassadors of Mission Roll Call, and they should be sharing this information with people that they work with, and with other veterans, with family and friends, and because it's an important issue, and quite frankly, it's an embarrassment to our country. I mean, no one who raised their right hand, successfully traversed basic training, whatever branch you did, served their country, should be homeless. Of course, we could argue that no one should be homeless, and I concede that. But certainly no one who served their country should. And we need to do better as a community on this, and VSOs need to come together. And we don't worry about credit here at Mission Roll Call. So as long as this problem gets fixed and we can help bring people together, bring ideas together, and bring the resources together, I think we'll be much more powerful. And that's why, back to the polling, this is important, that constituents need to share with their congressmen and senators that homelessness is not tolerated. And they can do that through this polling, because we can share it with them. So they don't have to contact their congressman. We'll do it for them. Right. So just share that information. But let's be passionate about this. Let's fix it. Let's go at it. And the goal should be not a percentage decline, or a gradual descent into zero. We should try to get to zero as fast as possible. No more homeless veterans across the country. And I know that's a tough goal, but I mean, everybody who listens to this and who's been a veteran has done tough things, and they can do it again.
What do I say about goals? Just make sure it's achievable. It's achievable. So,
It is.
So there, Tammy, I see the team already answered, but you absolutely can ask questions here. So if a question pops in your mind or you think something, that's what these are for. So, so please do that. So, okay. So we talked about the homelessness portion. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the just suicide prevention portion of this initial poll. And part of the reasoning is not because that's not an important subject. We know it is, Jim, but the reality is we're just as focused in that right now. And there's a lot of information, a lot of data we're trying to pull together. And then also finding the right organizations to partner with to again, focus on this issue and just drive it as far as possible. So with that being said, Jim, I'd love to go to the next poll question that that we had. So this poll question is, which of the following veteran services have you used in 2025? So I know the team will put up that so that you can see it. For me, just from a general, I think, question that I'm interested in to hear from you is, what did you find interesting in this poll and kind of the responses? Because I found a couple things unique that I didn't expect was going to be the case.
Well, I think the first thing that came to mind for me was I understood that healthcare, of course, was going to be very high, and disability comp was going to be very high. But I was disappointed in the education piece being so low. That was a surprise to me. And the home loans, I would have thought that was higher, but that was my blush on that. I shared it with my wife, who's also a veteran, and shared it with a couple people, and they had other perspectives as well. But what was yours?
Well, I mean, first off, we talked, you mentioned this earlier, this idea that there's, 18 million veterans, and that like half aren't related to the VA at all, right? Or even VSOs. The interesting part about that survey, if you can pull that back up just real quick, the interesting part of this thing is that on there's one that says none of the above, right? And like, so the first thing for me is, and some of these, they may not meet the criteria for some of that, but that's still an interesting note to have here, is that, veterans just in general aren't even completely bought in still, that maybe they can get. And that's one of the parts of the polls, understanding you are a veteran, they can have VA based services, but they have chosen not to get those services or not use them. And in some cases, I think it's because they don't think that they deserve it, which if you're listening to this, you absolutely do. And so does your family. Or two, life just moves fast and it's not something that they needed. So I didn't know what your thoughts were on that as well.
Well, I'll be personal about it. I did not go to the VA. I retired from the Army in 2004. I know my boyish good looks don't match that, but I've been retired now for 20 years. And it wasn't until last year that I went to the VA and started the process. And why was that? Well, I figured I had my legs, I had my arms, my eyes were in good shape. I never got injured. In combat. I never had a serious injury while on active duty. And I always felt, well, I'm not going to waste anybody's time here. There's people that need it and I don't. Well, that's not the way to look at it. The way to look at it is there are things that happen to you over 20 years. And there are some things that degrade over time. And they started while you were on active duty, and you need to have a professional take a look at it. And it's part of the covenant that was made to us when we joined the service. And it was a member of our team. It was Valerie who urged me on in it, Ray. She kind of gave me that look like, why aren't you doing that?
That's right.
And I went, you're right, I should. And so I did. And it was a wonderful experience. The Charlotte VA where I live is great. And the doctors were wonderful and everything worked out. And so now I'm urging other people to do that as well. And so I think it's making that step and realizing that it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's not something to feel that you don't deserve. And I had to get over those hurdles. And here I am running an organization that's advocating for veterans.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had to do it myself. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad my team urged me to do that. And I would urge other people to do that. The VA is an important component of our government. It's the largest healthcare industry organization on the planet, and does some wonderful work. I grant there's some places that don't do as well as others, and there's certainly lots of room for improvement. And we're going to help them work with veterans to fix those problems. But it's important for us to take part in the process, and go and be involved with it.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to a buddy the other day, and he did the exact same thing. Like he retired around 2012, and we were talking about him going, and I know that he's got some things that are going on just like personally, and he's paying out of pocket for things that really, this is why the VA's here. We were with another friend that was there, and what the other friend said kind of stuck with me a little bit, and I never thought about it this way. That yes, we volunteered to serve, but there was still a contract in place when we did that. There was a contract between us, the American people, and then the American people back to us. And I didn't think about that. But then as I was going, I was laughing because I was looking at my book, and like I actually have my initial contract, and it was in there, like the things like, hey, when I signed up, we weren't at war when I signed up. But for me, it was like college education. Like you get these things as part of that. So I think that that's such an important thing for folks to understand, on this. It's not an entitlement. And some people may join because that, and that's okay. People go in different directions, but I do believe that as people serve and they start to have these interactions with folks to their left and right, it becomes way more than about yourself. It becomes about, those that you're with. And then you get a really good understanding of why you're there and why you're needed. So, so I appreciate that, Jim. So I wanted to jump, Jim, because we only got a few minutes left. I do want to answer some of these questions. So I may take a little bit extra of your time today just to make sure that we get some of these questions. Tammy, thank you so much for your question. Tammy asked if you can just kind of give a good overview to help somebody that may not understand the organization. What does Mission Roll Call do? Like what is our day-to-day, and then what do we try to do throughout the year to impact veterans and their families?
Yeah, well, thanks for that question. Think of us as a hub for veterans to go to find out what's going on in our world that's affecting veterans and their families. That's everything from legislation that's pending, opportunities for veterans and other organizations, what other veteran support organizations are doing, where you can volunteer, finding out about things like how do I navigate the VA, how do I put a resume together. We do all of those sort of things. But what we also do is what we talked about earlier, and that is amplifying the voice of all the veterans. So I like to say we defend the defenders, right? So all of us defended our country while we were on service. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that we're defending the rights, the things that should be afforded to us as veterans to make sure that we're taken care of. And there's some legislation that just doesn't make sense. And so, and there's some legislation that doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So we're going to try to educate all the veterans to make sure that they know about this, and then get their polling information and share that with members of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, as well as the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, to make sure we can shape legislations, new bills, so that veterans' rights are preserved, such as their Second Amendment rights, access to health care, quality of that health care, all of those things that are very important. So we do that for veterans, and we do that for other veteran support organizations. So long-winded again, but I hope that gives kind of the scope of what we're trying to achieve here.
Yeah, and I think there are just a couple additions on here, Jim, because I think these are important. And these are things that you said to me that have just stuck, and I know the entire team why we drive as fast as we do. One, anybody who's transitioned out of the military knows that we didn't have a very good hub, right? Like, look, there is phenomenal veteran support organizations and nonprofit organizations, 40,000+ that are out supporting veterans and their families. And what we look at ourselves to be doing is putting them on our shoulders and lifting them up as high as we can, to bring awareness of the things that we're doing. So part of what we're trying to do is create a hub that makes it easier for you to find the information. So all of those things that Jim talked about, if you've gone to our website and you look, I'm going to give Roger is the guy that's really focused on what I would call our communications / marketing for what we do and what the website looks like. His background is in this. The idea is to create a UI and a platform that you as veterans and your families can come and use and find what you need quickly. And if we're not doing it right, ask. So a lot of this is based off that. So that's number one. Yeah. Number two, and probably one of the most important things that I just want to key in that Jim said there, is this isn't our voice, meaning mission roll calls. This is your voice. So when he talks about going to government leaders and talking to them, there's a two-way street here that we're trying to help with. One is we want to help better educate and inform you as a veteran or a family member of the things that impact you. But then we also want to take what you provide us, which is answering these polls and surveys, to the leaders, government leaders that are making the decisions, so that they understand your voice, right? And this is, in some cases, unique. This is not something that other organizations do completely. And if they do, it's inside of their organization. As Jim said, it's not about us, it's about all of us. So our coalition partners, Team Red, White, and Blue, Team Rubicon, all of these great organizations that many of them you've heard of, they're part of this coalition where we need the voice, we foster that voice, and then we deliver it to make sure that folks are making the right decision. Because Jim, can you talk about the importance of, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, go ahead.
One of the interesting things that you told me one time was we had a perceived thought on a poll question, but when we got the reply in, and why we don't, like, it's not our voice, it's veterans' voices. If you could kind of talk about that.
Yeah, and then that's so powerful. And that's what is so different than us, than any other organization, veteran support organization. And I'm not taking away from other national level veteran support organizations, but that's right. They'll have a meeting in a local state, and then that state comes up with 2 or 3 ideas or 2 things that are important to them. And then it goes to the region, and then it goes to national. By the time it gets filtered at that point, it doesn't ever look like the state's request. And that takes time, and conditions change during that time. With our polling, we do it instantly, and it's not filtered. So there has been times where we have sent out a poll question, and I've been convinced, and I think other team members have been convinced, well, they're going to say yes to this. This is absolutely a yes. Overwhelmingly no. Or the percentages will be different. And that's refreshing.
It is.
Because I think it changes our perspective of things, and we're listening to the voice, and that's powerful, because although many of us don't hold Congress or Senate in high regard for many reasons, personal reasons, they're struggling sometimes to find, well, what is it that people want? And how does that get done? Well, people go to that person's office. Well, I would venture to guess that very few people listening to this has ever knocked on a senator's door or congressman's door and advocated for a position. And that's only one voice, like we talked about earlier. It's much more powerful through this mechanism of our polling, where veterans can have their voices heard, and we can carry that voice unfiltered to a senator or congressman, making a key vote of something that's not only going to affect their lives, but the lives of their children and the next generation of those that are served. And I think all of us want to make sure we use these services, such as the VA and home loans and educational benefits, because if we don't use them and they're not utilized, they're not going to be there for the next generation that go into the units that we serve so proudly in. So we want to make sure that happens. So I think it's important for us to understand it's not just about us at this snapshot in time. It's about continuity. It's about having your voice heard, bringing those voices together, amplifying that voice, and having meaningful impact.
That's right. Yeah. And I love the generation thing. I know you and I talk about that a lot. I mean, just think of if the American Legion had not, pushed across that first GI Bill, right, we would not even have the education. But and who would have thought? I mean, I wonder back, if you could look back that far and just wonder what they were thinking I think we've gotten this world now. And I'm not going to say that it's like me, because that's not my point. But if you just take it outside of why we served, it was because it was other people. If you just put that in your mindset for a second, you understand that what you're providing now, like you said, Jim, so powerful. It's the generations behind us, your grandkids, their kids, like just further back, that they're going to be the ones that are impacted the most by what we provide today. And that is such a powerful point to make.
Yeah. And you think about how the military brings people from every walk of life together, and then has them move all in the same direction in a few weeks, caring about each other. We just need to continue that momentum through the process of people transitioning and get into our website so that they can find their path. They can learn from other people's mistakes. They can understand how to utilize the VA now instead of waiting, like in my case, 20 years to do it. And taking full advantage of the rights that have been given to them and the programs that are there for them that our fathers and their fathers worked hard to get for us. So I think it's important for us to get behind things like our polling, because it's such a powerful tool to change the way America thinks about veterans and puts the facts out there. As we all know, there's a lot of noise out there, and sometimes they're not factual. And what we do is vet our things very carefully. And our polls are pure numbers, not vetted, not filtered. And I think that's powerful because the truth is powerful.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We're going to do one last one, Jim. So I did say we go a little bit over, but Joshua, thank you so much for your question here. So Joshua says, Jim, as a strong advocate for vets, what personally drives your passion for the Mission Roll Call mission?
I think it's two things. One is, this is so unique. No other organization does what we do, and that is advocate by using polling and using the power of the voices that make up the veteran community. And it's a diverse community, right? I mean, veterans make up, like I said earlier, the fabric of our country. They come from every walk of life. So that's exciting in itself. Different demographics, different states, different accents, different religions. And we can take all those voices together and find out the commonality, where they feel and think, and then share that with important people that are making decisions, and to help educate the American public on veterans. I think that's vitally important. I think the second thing is it's the people. Working with the group that I have at Mission Roll Call, working with other veteran support organizations, helping the best we can to those that have served. I mean, that's enormously beneficial for your self-esteem. It gives you a calling. And at the end of the day, we all want to leave the earth a little bit better than we found it. And that's what we're trying to do here. And we want to help people along the way, because that's what life's all about.
Yeah. And it is selfish, because feeling good about doing good for others is definitely selfish, but it's worth it. So anyway, Jim, thank you so much today. Tammy, Joshua, thank you guys so much for your questions today. And again, for those that are watching, if you have a question, you're watching this after the fact, make sure you post down there in the comments. We will absolutely answer it either in the comments, or we'll answer it on next town hall, which will be in May. Jim, any closing remarks here before I close it out?
The only thing I would say is, please share this with family and friends, those that are interested in the military, those that may have had a son or a daughter in the military, or a mom or dad. It's important that we hear all your voices. This isn't just for veterans. It's about those that care about the veteran community. And be proactive. Take those polls, share them with other people. It's so important. There's some huge legislation that's coming down the pipe that we need your voices on. It's going to have generational impact. And so it's important that your voices are heard.
All right. Thank you so much, Jim, for your time again today. For those that asked the questions, for everybody that's listening, for our veterans out there and their families, thank you for your service to our nation. We do appreciate you and all that you volunteered to do for us. And for those, the generations that come, we thank you as you start your next mission. And as always, thank you for being here, and we will see you guys next month. Have a wonderful day. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.